Hi, welcome to CMMC Automation. On this channel, we share with you tips on how to automate your CMMC compliance efforts using ChatGPT to save your company considerable time and resources. My name is Derek Phillips. I am the president and founder of Aspire Cyber. We specialize in helping small defense contractors prepare for their CMMC assessments. Also, I am a certified CMMC assessor and instructor. Let's get to the content.
Today I'll be sharing with you how to automate the compliance activities for non-privileged account use AC.L2-3.1.6. Yesterday we covered 3.1.5, which was privileged account use. So for those employees or end users that have elevated privileges, you want to ensure they have a separate username and password than their standard user account. Therefore, whenever they're performing activities that do not require the elevated privileges, then such as searching the internet, maybe checking their email, if those are just standard activities, then they should be using their non-privileged credentials versus their privileged account. Because if their credentials are compromised by saying, for example, while they're using the internet, then the potential impact is going to be significantly less than if their privileged credentials are compromised. So the goal of 3.1.6, the intent of practice 3.1.6 is to limit the possibility of those privileged credentials being compromised. So the less frequent that they're used, if they're only used for administrative activities, then that just lowers the chances that those credentials will be compromised versus if a employee is using those elevated privileges for everything, then it just increases the exposure and opportunity for those malicious actors to compromise those credentials. So let's explore how ChatGPT can provide us guidance on how to satisfy practice 3.1.6. So we're back in the CMMC Level 2 assessment guide. Can see for 3.1.6, use non-privileged accounts or roles when use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions, and we have our two assessment objectives. We are back in ChatGPT, the conversation that we've been using for all of the NIST SP 800-171 practices. I'll start with my initial prompt just to set the context for what I'm expecting from ChatGPT. So I'm going to provide ChatGPT with the practices and assessment objectives. I want ChatGPT to provide me with concise responses, list administrative and technical controls, actually name some of the recommended solutions, and also mention evidence that I could present to external CMMC assessors to satisfy each assessment objective. Disclaimer, this is just going to be a recommendation that ChatGPT is providing. Obviously, you'll need to work with your subject matter expert, your consultant, whoever your internal CMMC subject matter experts are to gather up all the evidence for your CMMC Level 2 assessment. We're just using ChatGPT for guidance. ChatGPT says, sure, it's ready to clock in. Time for duty. Now I'm going to paste in the practice. So we use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. And we're off to the races. So we know we're going to need our access control policy, which I demonstrated how to prompt ChatGPT to help you create that template in the 3.1.1 video. Once we complete each domain, I'll also walk through that process again, showing you how to create that policy for each domain. So for technical solution, we're going to need an identity and access management solution such as Okta, Active Directory, for example, AWS IAM. Evidence, written policies, potentially training records. So when we're talking about training employees on when it's appropriate to use their privileged credentials versus their non-privileged credentials. Because if we don't train, if organizations don't train their employees won't know. So they'll take the path of least resistance and always use their and always use just their one set of credentials, which would be probably their privilege because it gives them the most access. With our technical documentation demonstrating how our IAM solution is implemented and enforced. And then any files, log files, system reports showing those non-privileged accounts are being used per policy. So we talk throughout this domain about having a SIM tool. Another option is a privilege access management solution. So that way we're making sure we're tracking those all privilege activities on our systems. Pretty straightforward. For the first assessment objective, non-security functions are identified. How do we do that, ChatGPT? So we're just creating a comprehensive list of all of the non-security functions. I mentioned reading email, creating documents, browsing the web, technical solutions. Solutions using tools and software that can help monitor and identify non-security functions, such as user monitoring tools. Could be Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, Active Track. So again, by prompting ChatGPT to give you specific solutions, then at least giving you a starting point of knowing, okay, which direction to look when you're starting to explore what solutions that you want to purchase for your organization. And as always, you can continue to prompt ChatGPT further, asking for more details about the solution, asking for comparisons, and go as far as you wish. ChatGPT is your oyster, so just explore it as much as you need to get the answers you're looking for. Evidence to present to a CMMC assessor. Always have a documentation, records and reports of user activity. So make sure our monitoring tool is showing a clear distinction between security and non-security functions. For example, if we have a privileged user account, those credentials, if we see that for a week straight that privileged user is using their privileged account, then versus their non-privileged account, then we know they're not following a policy, unless they were just doing all administrative activities that entire week, which would be unlikely. Then make sure we have those training materials or communications outlining the identified non-security functions to staff. For the next assessment objectives, users are required to use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. So we're certainly going to have to enforce our policies and procedures requiring users to use non-privileged accounts for non-security functions. We need to regularly train them and remind them. Have our technical solution, role-based access control, recommended Active Directory, have our policies, procedures, training. So we see that the evidence solutions are going to overlap as with a lot of these practices, and assessment objectives. So I'm saying chart format, define non-security functions and non-privileged roles. Y'all know by now, if you've been watching the videos, I love my charts. This just makes it illustrates clearly what the information I'm trying to capture. So we have our non-security functions and roles. Sales operation, business analyst. So these are just examples of non-privileged functions and roles. And obviously you would customize it to your organization, but it gives you a starting point. And you can give ChatGPT more general information about your information, keeping in mind you're not providing any sensitive information about your organization into ChatGPT, but you can say, hey, we're a technology company, or we're a small company, that we're a small manufacturer, we manufacture widgets, just general information. And then that context you provide ChatGPT, it will provide additional guidance tailored to the information that you've provided. I'm about to try a new prompt. So I'm prompting ChatGPT to give me sample verbiage that I can include in their access control policy to satisfy the following assessment objective. This is the second assessment objective from this practice. So users are required to use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. So I want to see what verbiage ChatGPT would give me for that section of the access control policy. This section, we got the non-privileged access for non-security functions. In accordance with the principle of least privileged, non-privileged accounts for standard user accounts with permissions that are restricted. Necessary performance of regular duties. Users must not use privileged accounts for routine non-administrative tasks. So we're clearly defining, okay, when you're authorized to use your privileged account and when you're not. So this is just verbiage, sample verbiage that you could use, that you can incorporate into your access control policy to provide governance for 3.1.6 and the corresponding assessment objectives. Pretty impressed with the output from that prompt. This is my first time using a prompt for ChatGPT. Just give me verbiage pertaining to a specific assessment objective. All right, so that was pretty straightforward. We can wrap up this video with essentially our project plan. So in chart format, consolidate all the guidance that you provided today into that project plan. We'll end this video by prompting ChatGPT to consolidate the guidance into a project plan, including specific administrative controls and names of specific technical solutions that were recommended today. We have our priority tasks, administrative controls, technical solutions, and evidence for assessor. I've added the priority column. So it's a high priority, low. And obviously as an organization seeking certification, you would make that determination, but ChatGPT is giving you its 2 cents. Identify privileged accounts, implement least privilege, identify security functions, implement privileged security functions, identify non-security functions. You then force the use of non-privileged accounts for non-security functions. So it's charged to provide you just a general example. Always going to need to tailor it to fit your organization's specific needs and circumstances. Today's video was straightforward. Just want to keep the guidance short, sweet, and actionable. Most importantly, actionable. I want you to be able to take what I show you with ChatGPT and fully maximize it. And think about all the different prompts you can continue to ask ChatGPT to get the guidance that you need to satisfy each of the 110 practices in NIST SP 800-171. As always, I invite you to leave me comments. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at dphillips@aspirecyber.com. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I'll be back next time with 3.1.7.
Thanks for watching CMMC Automation. I hope that you got a lot of value from today's video and you use ChatGPT to automate your CMMC efforts. It's going to save your company a lot of time and money. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at Aspire Cyber. Also, you can leave your questions in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe because it helps out this channel immensely. I really appreciate it, and good luck to you on your CMMC journey.